The purpose of this video is to provide a walkthrough on how to create an organization board record for applicants seeking to obtain or maintain the CDFI certification to meet the collective review requirement. To receive the full benefit of this video should be used in conjunction with the CDFI certification guidance and application resources available on the CDFI Fund's website at www.cdfifund.gov/CDFI-CERT under Step 2, Apply. DIHCs, affiliates of DIHCs, and subsidiaries of IDIs are subject to the collective review process for CDFI certification. This means that during the CDFI certification application review process, the CDFI Fund will review 1. The individual activities of the applicant, and 2. The activities of the applicant's affiliates to make sure that the applicant and its affiliates collectively meet the requirements for CDFI certification. An applicant subject to collective review must identify its individual target markets as part of the CDFI certification application. In addition, the applicant must identify a target market for each of its affiliates, which can be either the same target market as the applicant or a different target market. The combined target markets of all of the applicant's affiliates is a collective certification market. The applicant must dedicate at least 60% of its individual financing activity to its target market. The affiliates must dedicate at least 60% of their combined financing activity to their collective certification market. The affiliates do not need to meet the 60% threshold individually for their target market components of the collective certification market. To meet the accountability test, each applicant must demonstrate accountability to its identified target market through a governing board or advisory board. Each affiliate must also demonstrate accountability to its own target market through a governing board or advisory board, which can be either the same or different from the applicant's board. For the purposes of the collective review, an affiliate with a controlling entity can meet the accountability test by using its controlling entity's organization board. An applicant or certified CDFI can create up to 2 board records to demonstrate accountability to proposed CDFI certification markets. Once the board or boards are created in the organization detail page, it will be visible in the CDFI certification application or CDFI certification amendment form to select. First, I will demonstrate how to create a new board record for the collective review process, which sets up the accountability purpose and identifies the number of board members. Next, we will review how to enter accountability information for each member of your board into AMIS. Finally, we will walk through how to submit your board record in AMIS. To create a new board record, navigate to the applicant's organization detail page. Click on the New Org Board button at the top right of the screen. If your AMIS organization profile screen is minimized, click on the upside-down triangle at the upper right of the screen and select New Org Board from the drop-down list to launch the board record. This takes us to the New Org Board pop-up window, where we will begin to complete all the required fields. As a note, the required fields are marked with a red asterisk. We will demo a board record for a CDFI certification collective review, where the accountability is provided by the entity that is relevant to the primary entity seeking the CDFI certification, not the CDFI certification applicant. Enter a name for the board. Even if your board does not have an official name, consider using a board name that makes sense. For example, create a board name that includes the name or abbreviated name of the organization. The type of board, governing or advisory, and the calendar year of submission. Next will be the purpose field. For this purpose, we will select CDFI Certification, Collective Review for Another Entity, Accountability Self-Provided, and click Next. Next, we will enter the name of the primary entity subject to the collective review. Note: the applicant is the primary entity subject to the collective review. The primary entity is whose CDFI certification collective review that the accountability information we are presenting is relevant to. So here we will enter the primary entity's name in the field provided. The next screen identifies how accountability to the proposed CDFI certification market will be demonstrated. Select the method of accountability from the list provided. For this board, we will select Governing and Advisory Board and click Next. Note: if using the Governing Board and Advisory Board method of accountability, a separate board record must be created for each of the relevant board types. This takes us to the board type and total number of board members fields. For the current board type, we will select an advisory board from the pick list option. Next, enter the total number of board members, including board members that are also staff members for the entity served by the board. We'll click Next. The next screen shows a warning noting that if a no response is entered for any of the next series of questions, the entity will be ineligible to create the board. For this demo, we will answer yes to all the related questions. Please see our online resources for more detailed information on responding to the advisory board related questions. As a note, there is a drag and drop / upload feature at the end of the page for applicants to attach any relevant documentation. Uploaded documents will not show on this screen once the board record is complete, but it will be shown in the Notes and Attachments section of the applicable Board Record tab. Once all the relevant questions have been answered, click Next to complete creating the board. A new board record will be created and visible on your organization's Related tab. You can find the Related tab right here. As mentioned earlier in the demo, because the methods of accountability selected was governing and advisory boards, we need to create both a governing and an advisory board. So now we will create a governing board. We'll click the New Org Board from the pick list to launch the board record. So this takes us to the New Org Board pop-up window again, where we will complete all the required fields. So here we will complete the name of our governing board. Next will be the purpose field. We will select Certification, Collective Review for Another Entity, Accountability Self-Provided from the list of options, and we will click Next. Next, we will enter the name of the primary entity subject to the collective review. And as a reminder, the applicant is the primary entity subject to the collective review. The primary entity is whose CDFI certification collective review that the accountability information we are presenting is relevant to. So we will enter the primary entity's name into this field provided. The next screen identifies how accountability to the proposed CDFI certification market will be demonstrated. We'll select the method of accountability from the list provided, and for this board, we will select Governing and Advisory Board. For the board type field, we will select Governing Board, and then we will enter the number of board members. As a note, per the CDFI certification guidance, the number of board members cannot be less than 3. If the number of board members being presented is less than 3, you will not be able to create the governing board record. We will enter 4 board members and select Next to complete setting up the board record. Once complete, a new board record will be created and visible on your organization's related tab. We will now demo a board record where the accountability record is for an entity using its controlling entity in connection with the CDFI certification collective review process. We'll open the New Org Board pop-up and enter the board name. For purpose, we will select CDFI certification, collective review for another entity, accountability provided by controlling entity, record for entity using controlling entity. Please note the warning message in red font that appears when this purpose is selected. Click Next. The first input field in the next screen asks to enter the name of the primary entity subject to collective review. Enter the name of the entity seeking the CDFI certification. The next question on the screen asks if the entity presenting its accountability information for another entity's CDFI certification collective review process engages in the direct provision of financial products or financial services. Note, if yes is selected, you will receive an error message stating that as the entity presenting its accountability information directly provides financial products or financial services, the board record cannot be created via the use of a controlling entity's accountability pathway. We will select No for this response, which then populates additional questions on this screen. The first 2 questions on the screen will be auto-populated based on your response from the prior screen. The next question asks to identify the controlling entity that is being used to provide accountability. Use the lookup function to find the controlling entity that will be used to demonstrate its accountability in connection with the applicant's CDFI certification. Note, to be able to search and link an organization to the board record, each entity, both the controlling entity whose board is being used to provide accountability and the affiliated entity, must ensure that they both share permissions between each other by adding a contact from each organization to each entity's organization's external contact list. If you are having problems updating the contact and permission information, submit an AMIS service request to the IT department to update the external contact list for the relevant entities. Next, attach the documentation that demonstrates the entity providing accountability is a controlling entity by using either the drop or upload file features. Next, use the lookup feature to locate and link the controlling entity's AMIS board record or records. Note, the option is available to link up to 2 board records for the controlling entity that is being used to provide accountability. If a controlling entity will be used to provide accountability for an entity or entities relevant to a CDFI certification collective review process, a governing leadership approved document evidencing the applicable control relationship must be provided. We will now demo a board record where the accountability record is for the controlling entity itself that is relevant to another entity's collective review process. Enter the board name. For this purpose, we will select CDFI Certification, Collective Review for Another Entity, Accountability Provided by Controlling Entity, Controlling Entity's Record. Please note the warning message in red font that appears when this purpose is selected, noting that the purpose selected should only be for an entity that is eligible to provide accountability as a controlling entity in connection with another entity's CDFI certification collective review process. Click Next. The next screen asks to enter the name of the primary entity subject to collective review. Enter the name of the entity seeking the CDFI certification. The next question on the screen asks for the method of accountability. For this board, we will select Governing Board Only from the pick list and will select Next. Next, we will select the board type and enter the total number of board members. And we will click Next to complete the board record. After completing the board record, the next step is to create the individual board member record. This step allows you to present all of the board members and identify the target market accountable members. Once the necessary board record or records are created, the next step is to add board members to the board record or records. Board member records should be created separately and individually for each board member on the relevant board as of a point in time no more than 45 days prior to when the CDFI certification application is submitted. Do not create board member records for past or intended future members of the board. Only create board member records for the individuals that are on the board as of the relevant point in time. This includes staff members of the entity the board serves. To create a new board member record, click on the Related tab of the organization's detail page and scroll down the page to the Organization Board section. Here, you can locate and launch the previously created board record. In the right-hand corner of the screen, you will see New Org Board Member as a button. Once this is launched, you will select the appropriate responses to the follow-up questions as applicable to your organization based on the application guidance material. For this demo, we will select a no response for all the questions. And click Next to complete the board member record. The board members that were added to the organization board record should display under the Related tab of the organization board record. The third step in the board record process is to make the record ready and available for the CDFI Fund staff to review it in connection with the application or a board amendment form. Now that the board record is completed and all the relevant board members have been added, the final step in the board creating process is to change the board record status. We will use that board record to demo this section. For this video, a board record was completed in advance. We will use that board record to demo this section. Note, a board record will start in an in-progress status and will stay in that status until the applicant moves it to the record complete status. A board record will be moved by the applicant to the record complete/ready for submission status when all board member, and accountable board member information for that board is complete and accurate. A board record must be in the record complete/ready for submission status for it to be linked to the relevant CDFI certification application. The board record can be moved back and forth between in progress and record complete/ready for submission as needed. For example, if the entity needs to make changes to any of the board record or board member information before linking the board to its application for submission. A board linked to a CDFI certification application will be put into the proposed status automatically once the relevant application has been submitted. To change the board status, click on the Change Board Status button at the top right of the board record page. If your AMIS organization profile screen is minimized, click on the upside-down triangle at the upper right of the screen. So here we'll select that button and we'll launch the Change Board Status screen. Select the drop-down pick list under New Organization Board Status and select Record Complete/Ready for Submission. And click Next to complete the board status change. A reminder that the board record status can be reverted to in progress as necessary. The board will now be available to be linked to your CDFI certification application. A board linked to a CDFI certification application will be put into the proposed status automatically once the relevant application has been submitted. If a change needs to be made to the board record, you will need to go back to the Change Board Status option and change the status back to In Progress. Remember to return the board status to Record Complete/Ready for Submission once all the changes are made. This completes the demo on how to create organization board and board member records in AMIS for the collective review process. Thank you very much.